On Thursday, Governor Ron DeSantis announced the state was closing Alligator Alcatraz, the highly controversial immigration detention center that was the subject of numerous lawsuits as well as allegations of abuse.
Alligator Alcatraz fulfilled the role that it was designed to serve. Today it now has 0 detainees. It has helped remove many, many dangerous people from the street and get them out of not only the state of Florida, but the United States of America.
The idea for Alligator Alcatraz, as well as its name, was first proposed by Attorney General James Uthmeier in a video he posted on social media in June 2025.
The governor tasked state leaders to identify places for new temporary detention facilities. I think this is the best one. As I call it, Alligator Alcatraz. This 30 square mile area is completely surrounded by the Everglades. Presents a efficient, low-cost opportunity to build a temporary detention facility because you don't need to invest that much in the perimeter. If people get out, there's not much waiting for them other than alligators and pythons. Nowhere to go, nowhere to hide.
The idea immediately took off, but instead of analyzing whether it would indeed be an efficient, low-cost alternative, as Uthmeier described it, conservative politicians and many in the media became fixated on both the name and the prospect of escaping detainees being eaten by Florida gators and snakes, and no one found the joke more amusing than President Donald Trump.
The snakes are fast, but alligators are, we're going to teach them how to run away from an alligator, okay? If they escape prison, how to run away. Don't run in a straight line. Run like this. And you know what? Your chances go up about 1%.
The day before it officially opened, President Trump, then Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, and Governor DeSantis toured the site, with all three arguing Alligator Alcatraz could be a model for other states to emulate.
And is this a model going forward, Mr. President?
It can be. I mean, you don't always have land so beautiful and so secure. We have a lot of bodyguards and a lot of cops that are in the form of alligators. You don't have to pay them so much. But I wouldn't want to run through the Everglades for long. It will keep people where they're supposed to be. This is a very important thing.
The Republican Party of Florida sold Alligator Alcatraz merchandise on their website, while critics argued there was a callousness to the way the president and others joked about the harsh conditions surrounding the site, suggesting the entire affair was more of a publicity stunt than an effort at good public policy. On Thursday, DeSantis defended what he was able to accomplish.
We stood this up. We surged critical resources. We built critical infrastructure. We were able to manage very complex operations, and we were able to efficiently execute the mission when called upon.
But how low cost and efficient was it? An analysis by CBS Miami reveals Alligator Alcatraz may turn out to be the single most expensive immigration detention center in the United States. Typically, when ICE takes a person into custody, they either transfer them to a facility that they already operate, like the Chrome Detention Center, or, as is often the case, they have a contract with jails and private prisons to house them. According to the Office of Homeland Security Statistics, in 2024, the estimated average cost that ICE would pay was about $165 a day per detainee. The cost at Alligator Alcatraz? $3,571. In other words, it was 21 times higher than the national average to house a detainee at Alligator Alcatraz. I asked John Sandweg, the former ICE director under President Obama, for his reaction.
That's a shocking number, provided that number is accurate. That is an absolutely astounding bed rate. Look, even at the most expensive bed rates I can remember is when, during the Obama administration, when they built larger family detention centers. Because those were family detention centers, there were a lot of bells and whistles that the detention providers, the private detention companies needed to provide in order to ensure safety for the kids. But we were talking then about $400 a night, a bed rate. This idea of a $3,500 bed rate for a facility that is not convenient, it doesn't help ICE achieve its mission. Whew, Jim, that's really shocking to me. I mean, that's makes you really wonder about, who's safeguarding the taxpayer money here, right? Look, this isn't about whether you're soft on immigration or tough on immigration. What ICE detention is rough. What I'm saying is there's available much cheaper existing jails, old closed prisons and or private contractors where ICE can get those beds, house those same people en route to deportation, do it in a way that's more convenient and frankly safer for ICE agents themselves, and do it at a rate that is much, much, much cheaper for the taxpayer.
All right, let's break down the numbers. The total cost for the facility is now estimated to be $1.2 billion. That's billion with a B. DeSantis said nearly 21,000 detainees were processed through the detention camp. And according to ICE's own records, the average length of stay for a detainee at Alligator Alcatraz was 16 days. So when you have 21,000 detainees staying for an average of 16 days, that is a total of 336,000 inmate days. Divide 1.2 billion by 336,000 and you get $3,571, meaning when it was all said and done, taxpayers will have spent more than $3,500 per inmate for each day that they were at Alligator Alcatraz. Sandwig says he hopes the entire affair will be investigated.
I would love to see the IG or somebody neutral conduct just an inquiry into how this came about and how the taxpayers spent over $1 billion for a facility that I can tell you just from my years of working with ICE and working at ICE, the agency probably didn't like and didn't want.
You can also expect that if the Democrats take back the House in November, there will be congressional hearings on the cost as well. So why was it so expensive? Well, the answer isn't that hard to understand. While the president and the governor found it amusing to have a detention center in the middle of the Everglades, it also made it incredibly expensive. There was no infrastructure, so they had to truck water into the site every day. They also had to truck out all of the sewage and waste every day from the site. And because it was so remote, the entire site had to run on massive generators, and the fuel for those generators had to be shipped in every single day. And because it was in the middle of the Big Cypress National Preserve, the state had to take precautions to encircle the site with filters and other measures to guarantee there was no runoff in the neighboring wetlands. And that entire system needed to be monitored and filters regularly replaced. Then, of course, there was the cost of food, medical services, fencing, beds, tents, trailers, and staff. Let me give you just one example of how ridiculously expensive this became. The single largest contract at Alligator Alcatraz was with a company called Duty Calls. And yes, it is exactly what it sounds like. They provide sanitation facilities, they build and manage the toilet system, haul out the human waste, and provide the system of showers for the detainees and the staff who live at the site, as well as manage the laundry services. Their contract alone was for more than $200 million. During his press conference, DeSantis argued if the state had not built Alligator Alcatraz, those 21,000 captured individuals by ICE and local police would have been released.
Had this facility not existed, there would not have been a place to put these people. While they were waiting deportation, they would have been put back on the street. That would have harmed Floridians. I've met angel moms. I've met a lot of angel moms, and the number of them that I've met have lost a loved one at the hands of an illegal alien that had already been deported and came back, or was out pending some type of charges, or should have been deported, is a very, very high percentage of them. And you can't put a price tag on that.
Sandwig, the former ICE director, says that claim is ridiculous. The argument was that because the president was going to declare an emergency and move forward with mass detention and mass deportations, that ICE didn't have the facilities to really house people once they started rounding them up. That's at least the argument that DeSantis made in terms of saying why this was necessary. Do you buy that?
No, I mean, in many instances, the problem isn't, first of all, ICE's actual detention capacity is very limited. ICE relies heavily on contract facilities, but also state and local facilities. So existing sheriff's offices, county jails, in addition to the private providers. So many of the challenges ICE faced, historically in terms of ramping up detention, were not necessarily related to the lack of available beds or beds that they could rent that have already been constructed, but rather the money to pay for those beds. Now, to be fair, ICE does, because the detention goals of this administration are so great, they do want to expand out their detention capacity. But a lot of that expansion has been done simply by letting contracts to rent space in existing facilities.
There is also no evidence that everyone housed at Alligator Alcatraz was, as President Trump used to say, the worst of the worst. In fact, reporting by the Miami Herald and others suggests the majority of those taken to Alligator Alcatraz either had no criminal record or had minor arrests for traffic violations and other non-violent offenses. Even more troubling, though, for Florida taxpayers is that right now it is the state that is on the hook for the $1.2 billion. A year after opening the camp, the state has only received $58 million in reimbursements, which is less than 5% of what they are owed. On Thursday, standing alongside border czar Tom Homan, DeSantis said he is confident the federal government will eventually come through.
We will get it. I mean, I was there with Tom and the president, and the president said, get Florida their money. And Tom's going to make sure. Part of it, I think, is just bureaucracy.
One thing is certain, Florida will be dealing with the fallout over this debacle long after DeSantis leaves office.